Today I'm looking at ToneLib Metal, and this is a plugin that I had never heard of from a developer I'd never heard of, but he emailed me and sent me a license for this software, so I'm going to check it out. I did get it for free. That's a disclaimer. However, I didn't even ask for it, so I really have no bias here. I'm just going to see if it's good, and I have spent some time playing with it, and I do have some thoughts. But first, we're going to do a full mix demo so you can hear it in context. And then I'm going to play through some stuff and I will tell you what I like and some things that I think could be improved. Without further ado, here's the demo. Here are the isolated tones from this demo, and I'll show you all the processing. There's nothing going on post. All of the sound for the guitars is coming straight out of this one plugin. So I'll just solo up the rhythm guitars and let's take a listen. Next is my lead tone. I used a slightly different setup. I've got the Mega Blackface. It's pretty similar. I've got two noise reducers in here just to help really contain the noise. So let's listen to the lead part here. Lastly, I have the bass here, and this is using a couple of free plugins from them to keep with the theme here. I've got the bass drive and the tube warmth. These are both free ones you can download. The bass drive is, I believe, basically a Sans amp bass driver, which I do have one, and I am a fan of them. So I'm not using any IRs with this one, and it doesn't really sound like it needs it. So I guess it's sort of an all-in-one thing. They both have an kind of unusual interface. It's a parametric EQ and then this window that you can move around. The tube warmth is kind of subtle, but it adds a little bit of extra drive, which I thought kind of helped with the bass. You've got input-output gains. There's really not too much beyond that. This is a fairly simple plugin, but I got all my bass sound out of these two. Not my favorite bass tone in the world. However, it works on the mix, and I did it with just their plugins. So we're putting the whole suite to the test today. I've never seen banner ads in a free plugin before. Maybe a link to their website I get, but the banner ads, I'm going to say it's a little tacky, but hey, it's a free plugin. You want to advertise your company, that's fine. You can see their other products there. You can check them out. There is another guitar suite. Obviously, this is the metal themed one, but there's one for boomers as well, I guess. No offense to any boomer metalheads. It's just a joke, okay? Other than that, I've just got my drums, and it's my usual setup with Steven Slate drums, and I split everything out, and there's a little bit of EQ compression processing. And it's very simple mastering. I'm mostly using just this master desk, which I like because it's quick, and I don't have a professional mastering studio to actually do real mastering, so this is what I've been using, and it's kind of all in one. It's quick. I got it for free, and it sounds good. I like it. So that's what I've been playing with for the last couple months. I like it. I'm happy with it. Starting up the plugin, there is a little quick start guide here that just goes through the basics of how to use it, and it's pretty self-explanatory. This is a little bit more complicated in some ways than some guitar plugins, but it's not too bad. It reminds me a lot of Amplitude. It looks a little different, but it does have a lot of the same features, and you can see that we can resize the window here. On the left-hand side, we have a preset list. It comes with a bunch of presets, and then on the right-hand side, we have an effects window, and both of these can be closed or opened if you don't want them there. There is impulses. There's a bunch of effects here, pre-effects, so there's distortion, there's EQ, there's noise gate. There's a bunch of pedals that look like they are modeled after the Fortin ones. I'm going to say they definitely are. And it also comes with a bunch of amps here. We have a JC Clean, a jazz chorus. There's, of course, a 5150. I believe this is an Engel Fireball. There is, I'm not sure what the Pantera is. It says right there, Randall Warhead. It's the Engel Fireball 100, the Fortin Cali, and then a Blackface Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. And that is a good lineup, I would say, of amp models. Do they sound good? That is always the question. For IRs, you can load up their cab, which has all their different IR options. And then there's rack effects here. We have a delay, only one delay, but it does have some different options. Spring reverb, arena reverb, canyon reverb, not sure what that is. The sound of the Grand Canyon, I guess. Chamber reverb, hall, plate, room, phase, and dual chorus. And then you have your impulse menu over here where you can load in your own impulses. Let's first just build a little effects chain so you can see what it looks like. Let's throw in a noise reducer here, and you can see it comes up here. We have our options in our interface there. What is this compressor? This reminds me of a JHS compressor. It doesn't say, but it looks like a JHS compressor. I'm going to guess that it is. We have an EQ here. Let's make this a little smaller. Here's a one knob boost, tube screamer, metal distortion. I don't know what this is based on or if this is a custom design. It does have a 3-band EQ, the shredder, And maybe this is like a Fortin 33. I'm not sure. It's a one knob boost type thing. Edge drive. Again, looks like a Fortin pedal. There's a rat. There's what I would guess would be the Fortin Zool, except that that's a noise gate, so I don't think it is. This is obviously some kind of distortion. And there is a volume pedal. Why you need a volume pedal in a plugin like this? Well, it does have a lot of MIDI options, so that is something it's got going for it. And there's some other options to this that may be useful for some people. There is a standalone version. There is a lot of MIDI functionality, which is always nice. And then there's also like a looper function. You'll have to check out their website for that. I haven't used some of the extra features, and I don't really need them in a DAW. I don't really need a looper. If I want a looper, I have Reaper. I can just make a loop and play over it. But there is some stuff that might be useful for someone who doesn't have a DAW and wants to do some different things that wouldn't be easy to do without that. However, you should just go get a copy of Reaper. You can drag and drop these, which is nice for reordering stuff easily within the plugin. We can just get rid of some of these. Let's get rid of everything but our noise gate for now. And then you can put in an amp. I'm a stickler when it comes to amp sims having stereo processing. Because of the way I work, I like to have both my guitars feeding into one amp. And if I want to, say, add a little bit of treble during the mix, I can just do that on one amp rather than doing it on one side, copying it over. It's easier to audition effects, to listen to stuff. It's quicker to mix, probably saves some CPU power. There's a lot of reasons for it. And so I don't really want to use anything that doesn't have stereo routing. This plugin is a bit odd. It does have stereo routing, sort of, except that the amps are all mono. So while the noise reducer here is stereo, the reverbs, you can see by this little double circle icon, these are all stereo. However, these amps are all mono. The distortion effects are mono, except for things like the volume, the booster, noise reducer, splitter, those are all stereo. Now, maybe we can route a stereo signal this way and have two mono amps. And that would probably work just fine, except that, again, if I want to just change one setting, I have to change it on both. If we were to increase the complexity, and let's say we put in a distortion here, and I want to just do everything the same on both left and right, which I usually do, and I like the sound of, we would have to then do everything manually. There is a link thing, but this controller settings, that's MIDI stuff. I don't think there's any way to link both these amps to work together. So you have to go in there and get your settings just right. I guess the best way to summarize my feelings on this plugin is that it does a lot of things and it does them all well enough. I think perhaps though it's not focused as much in all the right areas. So it's trying to do a lot. It's trying to be an all-in-one guitar amp sim, effects, cabs, as well as like looping and recording stuff in the standalone mode. It's sort of like a one-stop shop for all your computer-related guitar needs. And that's a cool thing. The interface is relatively unique and it works well. There's a lot here that I think is pretty nicely done. I guess my main complaints would be that I think it could sound better. And that's the main thing I would focus on with this project. The amps all tend to be a little bit on the kind of fizzy and crackly side. Not really sure why. It may have something to do with oversampling, but that's kind of a wild guess. It would be nice to have a little more in-depth amp controls. I mean, specifically a depth or resonance knob would be a nice addition, and I don't think would be too hard to add in there. The IRs, I feel like, are okay, and there's a nice selection of cabs, but none of them really spoke to me so much. And at the same time, when I tried loading my own IRs or other third-party IRs, I didn't feel like they played as well with the amps as the ones that are built in, which is kind of strange because the IRs that I know are good just didn't sound great with these amps. There's a lot here for the price. they're not asking that much for this software. It was, I think, $30 when I checked it. Considering how many amps and effects and the MIDI functionality, the relatively nice interface and all that, all the different cabs, I think price-wise it's good. However, what really matters, of course, is sound. Having 100 different sounds but not loving any of them is sort of like, is it worth it? Is it still worth $30 to have a lot of things that you won't use? I don't think it sounds bad. And I think the mix ended up coming out good. I think it worked as well in a mix as just about any software I've tried. I think it sounded actually quite nice in a mix. So it's not that it sounds bad. I just think compared to some other amp sims and other IRs, I don't feel like it's the best out there, but it's certainly not the most expensive either. So, and it does, if you like the interface, if you like the workflow, to me, I feel like it can be a bit overcomplicated and fiddly to dial stuff in. So it took me a while to get some settings really dialed in that I liked, that I thought were up to my standards for using in a mix. It did get there. And I think in the end, with the presets I came up with, it sounds good. But like the stock presets, I tried them all out. I just didn't like the sound of any of them. Now you may. It may be a difference in style in whoever was coming up with the presets. Maybe they play differently. Maybe their system sounds different. They have different taste. That's all fine. The standalone plugin has a built-in recorder and looper and different features, which I think could be really good for the right audience. It's just not something that I need. Another big improvement would be having the amps and the effects, like the distortion effects, all in stereo. I just don't like not being able to record in stereo. That's a bit of a deal breaker. It's not the end of the world, but it makes things a little more of a pain when it comes to mixing and working quickly and efficiently. So I really don't ever use non-stereo amps. And even like the old pull-in amps, which were free, they're fantastic, but they're all stereo capable. And those are like over 10 years old and they're free. I feel like there's a lot of good things going on in this software, and with some tweaks and some improvements, it could be quite good. But I do feel like there's a few things that aren't quite there yet. So hopefully, those are future editions or a version 2 or something. And with my little suggestions taken into account, I think that would answer my few gripes with it. On its own, sound-wise, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it for doing, a final studio production most of the time. But again, it is certainly capable, and with the right settings and the right tweaking, it can sound pretty nice. So that's what I think of it. So I've got my guitar plugged in. We're going to go through just some of these amps and some basic tones, and then I'll show you the presets that I used in my demo because there's a little bit of fancy stuff going on there, I guess. There is a tuner, so importantly, let's get in tune first. We can mute the output of the tuner here. All right, so we're all tuned up. We're going to start with the Mega Blackface because I think it's the coolest looking amp here. And even though I'm not a huge dual rectifier fan usually, let's get our IRs set up first because that's the most important. And I don't want to be playing a rectifier through a JC120 cab. So, well, we can check out the Rectifier 212. Let's see how that sounds. So this is the stock settings here, and already sounds pretty good. Yep. Let's go through some of these speakers first, and then we'll take a look at the different amps when we find the best speaker. So here's the 1960A. We've got the 57. This is just the center position. Well, let's take a listen to the positions real quick. I like the center best, though it's definitely a center mic, so it's a little too bright and maybe a little thin. But the middle and the edge, I think, are just getting too dark too quick. What we're going to do, I'll show you my little trick for this. Set these to 50-50. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run the splitter, not to get a stereo cab. These are both going to be center panned, but one, let's take the center here. We're going to go to the same cab. We're going to go to the middle position, same mic, near everything. Everything set up the same, except that we have one on the center, one on the middle, and then we can blend them. So A is the center, B is the middle. Let's turn down the middle position a little bit and see if that thickens it up. So I think that sounds pretty good. And then from there, we can just check out the different cabs. As an IR aficionado, that is what I care about. So let's start with the orange, and I'm going to keep the same mic setup, and we're just going to go through some of the cabs real quick. On the Mega Black, with just the stock settings, it sounds fine. Let's check it out. In general, I like the Engel Pro. Let's see if we can go back to the Marshall 1960A for the middle position. I don't know if that makes sense. Let's see if we can get a nice little blend here. Then we're going to go into the amps. Don't worry. All right, I've just spent a little while dialing in an IR sound, and this is about as good as I think I can get it, trying out a bunch of different things, but here's what I'm rolling with. I've got the 57 center near on the Engel Pro, and then the condenser 414 on the middle near. I've got 60% of the center mic and 30% of the condenser in the middle of the speaker, and that's just to give it more body and more depth than the single IR will give you. Next, I'm just going to go through all the amps and play them a little bit so you can hear how they sound. Now, one thing I always hear with these amps is a little bit of, it sounds like crackling on the high end. And again, I wonder if that is aliasing or something with the sampling rate. It's not something that goes on normally with my interface, so it's not my computer. And I've tried out some of their other plugins too, and I've just hear this kind of high crackling that I can't just dial out. If I turn down the presence or turn down the EQ, it just muffles all of the high end. So I'm not sure what that is, but not a big fan, and it can be a pain to try to dial it out. Otherwise, the amps sound pretty good. It's just this weird crackling in the high end that I don't like. So what is next? Let's go to the Cali, and this has 2 channels. Next up is the Pantera, or the Warhead, Randall Warhead. That's what it is. Now this one isn't nearly as high gain. Let's just crank the gain to 10, you know? Who are we kidding? Let's give it the death scoop. Yeah, so this one kind of needs a boost, I would say. The Comet, this is the Angle Fireball. I think this is my favorite, along with the Angle Cabs. is a little bit bassy, even with the bass rolled back slightly. And it gets maybe a little crackly with the treble. Not bad, not bad. Let's check out the block letter. We know the settings. Yeah, this one sounds a little more raw. I'm kind of dialing back the presence and the treble on all these because I just find that there's something about the high end that just doesn't sound quite right. Sounds almost too broken up, not like smooth enough. Yeah, let's throw a tube screamer in front and see what happens then. Yeah, I don't like this this 5150 model as much as some of the others. It's one of my favorite amps. I don't know if it captures the best of it perfectly here. That's actually sounding pretty sick. I like the way those chugs are hitting. That's how I like it to feel. So that actually feels quite good. So we're gonna stick with that, but I want to try out some of the other distortion effects just to show you what we've got here. Let's see. There's the Metal DS. Hasn't been my favorite. Let's try out this shredder, and if I'm right that this is like a Fortin 33, well, we'll see what it does. So this does volume and boost, I guess. Let's see how different it is, because we have a one knob boost here. Let's just compare these two. So it's definitely adding like a lot of kind of grindy mids, but it's kind of sapping away the bass. I actually just like the regular boost better, and I liked. Let's compare the booster and the tube screamer real quick. Yeah, so the tube screamer, as you know, is tightening up the low end, and I like how that works. For fun, let's check out some of the other distortion. Here is the edge drive. So the Edge drive has a little more that kind of upper mid modern bite. Good, good for your djenting. There's also the Zulus. I'm not sure how different this one is from the Edge drive, but similar configuration. This one seems to just get blown out really quickly, and not a big fan of that. I think the Edge drive is good. That might be my pick here. Let's do the Rat, of course. Is the tone knob like a normal tone knob? Why is it freaking out my computer so much? It really doesn't like that, and now I'm getting weird latency. So the Rat's not my favorite here. I really like this Edge drive and the T-Scream. We've tested out the speakers, we've tested out the amps. So let's take this a step further with some delay and reverb. What are we gonna do for reverb? We've got hall, plate, room, there's phase. Let's check out the Canyon reverb just because it sounds cool. We've got our delay here. Now, does this sync to your DAW? It does not seem to. So if you want a sync delay, that's not going to work. But let's just hear how it sounds. We'll turn off the reverb. Let's throw on this Edge drive. So hopefully you can hear that the speed here, I've got this jacked all the way up. That's giving it a little modulation, and that sets the speed of the modulation. And you've, of course, got the feedback, the time. I like everything about it, except that I wish it synced to the project beats per minute, because that's usually how I like to run my delays. But it works. It's more like a vintage analog delay kind of thing. And we could set like real short. Let's turn up the speed on this. Let's crank up the tone. Fun little delay. That is the only delay option. Here's the dual chorus. pretty nice chorus. I like that. And it is stereo. Here's the phaser. And this one actually has a couple of different options. Let's do the phase 90. I like that one. Let's check out the reverb. I have a feeling all the reverb is going to be just fine. The spring reverb, I mean, it sounds like a spring reverb, but to me, it sounds a little bit artificial compared to a real spring reverb. Arena? So that's all the reverbs, all the amps, all the effects. I think I went through everything here, except for the clean. Let's do that. Just take a listen to the JC clean real quick, and I'll even throw on the JC 120 cabs. Okay, so we've got our clean. Let's also check out, I think the one effect I didn't look at was the compressor, and it's a good place to use it. You misspelled sense here. S-E-N-C-E. That's a new one. So we've got our compressor here, got dialed in a little bit spanky. On my single coil neck, go to the plate reverb again, or the spring reverb, and see how that sounds. Sound pretty nice. Let's add on a little bit of this dual chorus, and then we'll be done. So with the clean stuff, all sounds pretty good. Nothing really, anything remarkable going on there. The noise gates maybe could be better, but you know, it's a clean amp with chorus, reverb. Sounds good. All the reverbs sound good. I think that covers just about every piece of equipment in this software, so I'm gonna move on. I hope you enjoyed the demo, the jam, and checking out this plugin. It's kind of interesting. You can go take a look at their website. I'll put a link in the description. You can check out ToneLib Metal and their other software if you're interested in them. And if not, I hope you had fun anyways. So, as always, smash like, don't forget to subscribe, and what else? Oh yeah, I'll see you in the next video.